Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I got a really exciting show for you today. I was lucky enough to meet this young man and present to his Bay Area Wealth Building Association group probably about 3 months ago, and it was so fun to see a room full of 60, 65 people really excited about real estate investing, asking great questions, and then to step back and go, wow, he's been doing this for 19 years, providing value, meeting monthly. I just had to get Michael on this show and introduce him and also talk about an event he has coming up. But first, let's meet Michael and welcome to the show. How you doing, Michael?
Yeah, doing great, Michael. Easy name to remember, and
Yes.
thank you for mentioning our group too.
Yeah, it was great. I thoroughly enjoy talking to real estate groups. It's always interesting, right? You're in the group, you're as the presenter, and sometimes you got people on the phone, not really paying attention. But at your group, they were engaged, they were active, they stayed the entire time. I think questions and answers went for 20 minutes, which is pretty long. So you clearly run a pretty tight ship. So much appreciated.
Yeah, I know we have a lot of people that have been coming to our events literally for the 19 years, almost since we started them. And they come from all walks of life, people getting started, people who've never bought a home before or an investment property, and some very, very seasoned heavy hitters, that have done very well with their real estate investments over the years and just really want to rub elbows and talk to people with similar like-minded, camaraderie that's involved.
Yeah, so let's just plug the group a little bit because not everybody knows, where it is, when it is. Why don't you set that up for us?
Yeah, sure. The Bay Area Wealth Builders, otherwise known as BAWB, has been meeting for, as I said, 19 years. We typically put on a monthly event on the third Thursday night of every month in Corte Madera, so about 4 miles north of the Golden Gate Bridge. And then we do and sponsor about 3 or 4 different workshops during the year on very specific topics that I think provide a lot of value for people who are in the real estate game, such as trust, such as negotiation, such as marketing, such as the Trump tax plan, which came into play this year and is having some impact on people. And so those information for the group can be found at our website, which is www.bawb.info. Again, that's www.bawb.info. They can also call our information line, which is just an outbound information message at 707-996-6411. And let me repeat that one more time, 707-996-6411.
Yeah, and again, I like the events that you set up, and again, it really shows that you've been doing this for 19 years because you're tackling the big hairy problems, right, or questions that investors have. You're not just up there, sending out the latest person to come on stage and sell something, right? The events that I've been to, you're adding value. There is no selling, and it is truly information sharing. And you're right, you get to intermingle with heavy hitters, as you call them, and newbies, and it's a very interactive group. And
Yeah, there's a lot of good synergy in the room. Absolutely.
yeah, and if you're anywhere close to Corte Madera or San Francisco, it's just 4 miles past the Golden Gate Bridge, easy drive. Check them out third Thursday of every month. And again, it's bawb.info. Check them out. So, yeah. So what I want to go here, Michael, is I know you have an event coming up called Crush
Yeah.
It, and Crush It 2019. So why don't you sort of set up when you think about the next event you're putting on, you have to have sort of an outline or a sketch of what it's going to be. And I'm curious where Crush It 2019 sort of started.
Yeah, it started because we found that people, again, that are in this business for a while, and even those getting started, are looking for a little more hand-holding and wanting to learn some of the tricks of the trade that I've gleaned through my 35 years of being in this business. And I believe and advocate that you should really listen and learn from people who are in the trenches, in combat, that are doing business. They're the ones that are going to be able to share not only their successes, but a lot of times also their secret sauce and their failures too, some of the problems they ran into. And so Crush It really is a class that does a lot. It covers marketing and how to find deals, which are on top of mind for everybody. You've got to get a marketing system or campaigns in place to get the phone ringing, to get inbound traffic to come your way, because that's, without that, you don't have a business. And that's whether you're looking for your rentals or whether you're looking to do buy, sell, or what have you. So we cover ways to start that marketing campaign, which is personalized for every individual based on their budget and based on their skill sets. And then we build from there. We get into creative deal structuring. We get into the traditional types of financing, alternative types of financing, and as I said, creative structures too, which often solve sellers' problems. And we talk about negotiation and role playing with sellers, various comebacks that you're going to experience when you are talking to sellers, often over price, over taxation, and other issues. And then we cover some of my paperwork that I use. I give away a very savvy little 4-page agreement, which I use and I've used over the years, which has kind of been tweaked and battle tested. Again, when I'm dealing directly with real estate sellers, not agents involved, but directly with sellers, it's a 4-page agreement. I like to joke that it's written in a simple language that even a civilian can read and understand.
Oh, that's so true, right? Contracts that are filled with legalese, I still get confused by, and I'm like, nope, too difficult. I'm a simple man, don't understand. Stop, reset.
Yeah, there's less resistance to that, and I think there's easier understanding. And then of course, we wind down again with some of the tips if you're doing wholesaling as well as buying and selling, because as you know, there's so many people go into these classes, or they spend literally tens of thousands of dollars on expensive education. They get their head on a swivel, and sometimes they need to kind of sort through all of that hype and deal with a little bit more reality.
Yeah, and you bring up a great idea. You brought this up before we sort of hit the record button, and we both have an aversion to the dream merchants that come into town and sort of spin people around for 10 grand over a 3-day weekend or whatever it is. I'm convinced that these dream merchants know that when they leave this huge wake of disappointment and frustration behind them, and they just don't care, and that's sad. But what we have when you put on events like Crush It 2019, because you've been in the business 19 years, you see the same people, you're there, when they come back and, for the third meeting, right? You're not going anywhere, right? 35 years in the business, 19 years doing Bay Area wealth builders. You're not going to be a dream merchant. You're going to tell them what's really happening, both the good and the bad. And that's very admirable. So I appreciate it, and I hope everyone else does as well.
Yeah, and also recognize that this class is an evolving class. As markets cycle, as markets change, we tweak it, we change it. It's very relevant to the current cycles that we are in. Again, the dream merchants, for lack of a better description, I think that oftentimes the business they're really in is selling promotional products and education, and not really in the business doing it itself directly. They tend to give people a lick of the ice cream cone, is what I say.
Yeah.
And that, and then kind of leave it for you to be able to have to purchase more upselling of coaching and additional mentoring and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
We believe in low-cost education. We're sort of the antithesis, if you will, of some of these expensive classes that are out there.
Yeah, and I personally, I'll be more blunt. I think they are just selling dreams. I love that tagline, dream merchants. They're just selling dreams. They get everybody spun up and excited, and then they are gone, right? They're not there to pick up the pieces, which is so unfortunate.
Absolutely.
So let's talk more about Crush It 2019. Yeah. Why don't we tell them the date and the location first? I don't think we've hit that just yet.
Sure. The location is in Corte Madera at the Best Western in Corte Madera, right off Highway 101. It's an all-day class. I teach it personally. I only teach it once a year. It's the only time I'll be teaching this class in 2019. And it's on March 23rd. So it's a Saturday, March 23rd. And this year we're doing something rather unique also. There's been a lot of discussion about data and using big data to really highly target certain specific situations with property sellers where there's a high probability of them selling or needing to sell. So I am bringing in this year for a portion of the day, one of the largest data repositories that provides data to actually many of the title companies that then disseminate it and offer it. So they are really one of the top 3 sources as a data provider. And they're going to give a discussion during the day about how valuable certain types of data is, how you can use it, how you can obtain it, of course. And I think that alone is really worth the cost of admission. Just to be able to, we find that there's a lot of people selling data in the data marketplace that are resellers, very similar, I'm sure, to, in the software business, where they mark it up sometimes by a tremendous amount, and
Yeah.
and so we don't. What we're finding is that. Whoop.
Michael, you just went mute. Oh, there
Okay,
you
hang
are.
on. Okay, I thought I might have lost you there. So what we're finding is that people, let's say, might buy a probate list or something and pay 45, 50 cents a record, when oftentimes that record could be offered through the source I'm referring to at 5 cents.
Yeah.
So there's a huge markup.
Yeah. So I think there's, you're tying together very important things. And again, it's very Silicon Valley based, right? We are a big data shop. We know what's going on. 2 years ago, getting that list, the probate list or the water list, or, out of town owners, that was the thing, right? And you're right. Now people are getting those for 1 cent or 3 cents a record, spinning them around, maybe deduping or whatever they're doing, and then selling for 30 cents or 45 or a dollar, whatever.
Yes.
And a lot of busy professionals, ones that come to events like yours and others, the Saturday sessions, they don't know any different, right? They're happy to get a list. And I think bringing a big data guy or team to talk about that is a
Right.
great move, and people should pay attention.
Yeah. And more importantly, as you know, the data has gotten so much more detailed, where now it's easy to get phone numbers, it's easy to get email addresses, which allow you to not just send a postcard or a letter out to somebody to their address, but to actually really be proactive if you want to, and target them in different ways, with which we'll cover obviously during the day.
Yeah, and again, you're tackling the whole funnel, if you will, right? You're filling the funnel up with leads or contacts, whatever you want to call that. You're then going through the process of having phone conversations and negotiations, and ultimately you're going to get some deals done. So I think Crush It 2019 is aptly put. So March 23rd, Saturday, Best Western. Bringing in a big data team once a year. It's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we let everybody know just a little bit more about you as an investor?
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Well, I've been involved in real estate now for 35 plus years. I buy and hold property. I believe strongly in putting together, a rental portfolio, if you will. I think that's a good foundation for a lot of people to try to achieve. I do some buy-sell business too, which can be very lucrative too, but is a little bit more of a speculative aspect of our business, because it's not really an investment per se. It's more of a business, if you will, the business of buying property or finding it and turning it around and then trying to sell it for a profit. And then also I have a heavy background in real estate paper, trading in the secondary mortgage marketplace, really understanding a lot of the ins and outs of how paper is a wonderful tool that can be integrated into your real estate activities, whether it's negotiating favorable terms with sellers. I mean, the terms that we like to use a lot of times, there's no interest, no payments, not due until we sell the property. We give a couple of examples of that during the class, and I like those terms.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, sometimes you can get those terms with the right offer, the right structure, and the right framing of the discussion with the seller.
Yeah. One of the things I always like to do with my guests who have a long track record is if we can, right, go back and think about one of those first couple of deals that you did. Do you remember, all those years ago, the first or second deal you did?
Well, I actually do. I bought a property in Tampa, Florida, many years ago that a friend of mine brought me, and he was in the real estate business and actually got me excited and interested. And it was a couple who had moved out of state. They were living in Michigan at the time, left behind their Florida house. It was sitting on the market, free and clear. They decided they didn't like the sunny weather in Florida, and I don't know why, but wanted to go back to Michigan.
They went the other way.
Yeah, they went the other way, probably to be with family or what have you, who knows. But we made an offer to them at a price that was higher than what most other cash people were offering them. And they accepted it on a terms offer. So that's one of the little tricks, of course, of our business is we can often pay more if we get favorable terms. And we ended up acquiring that house, and the house has been a rental of mine, and I still own that house today, and it's free and clear.
Oh, that's awesome. I love stories that, when did this happen? Would this be in the 80s?
Yeah, this was in the early 80s. That's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
Right. So buying in the early 80s, creative terms, you can still do this today, right? If you get the right terms, you can pay more, people, right? It happens all the time. I know it's kind of a
Yeah.
mind trick, but it does happen. And lo and behold, he is truly a buy and hold guy, still owns that place in Florida. So how many different markets do you own rental properties? Is it just California and Florida, or is it all over?
At one time it was also in Texas as too, but it's mainly the two states right now, Florida and California. And one other thing about terms, I'll just dovetail on this if I can, is that a lot of people complain about, well, you can't cash flow real estate in expensive markets like California, of course, or other markets. And again, terms allow you sometimes to do that. You can structure transactions often with sellers, especially if they have highly appreciated property, where if they sell and they sell for cash and they don't want to do an exchange, let's say, they're subject to pretty high tax bite. So one of the tricks, of course, is to negotiate term sale with them. And if you can put some of their equity off to the side for a period of time, on the sidelines, as we like to say, where you're not having to actually pay debt service on it, oftentimes that allows you to cash flow property, and even in an expensive marketplace.
Absolutely. I firmly believe that if you're going to be cash flowing in what you and I will just call the Bay Area, because this is watched, all over the world, the only folks that are doing it are these creative answers, right? Unless you're putting, like 60% down or something, it's just tough. So I love creativity. And again, these are things that you're going to talk about at the Crush It 2009 conference. So it's awesome.
Yeah, we're going to cover a lot of things. We're going to talk about, from a negotiating standpoint, also the one question that if you ask consistently will put another $15,000 or more in your pocket literally every time. And that's something that most people really do not use and use effectively. We'll touch on that. We'll also talk about using paper as a way of raising capital for yourself. In a unique way, and many people, again, they understand a little bit about what we're talking about, seller financing and offering terms, but what they don't understand is that sometimes that's a means to another move you can make where you can raise capital, and it can be used pretty effectively. We've been making a lot of offers, and the interesting thing is, as right now at this point in time here in 2019, the real estate markets are looking like they are starting to cycle, that they have had some change, or there's, if you will, change in the winds.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the time to really study this stuff and get comfortable with it, because you're going to find a lot of sellers are going to become far more solution oriented, and are going to be willing to accept more alternative offers other than just, I want cash and that's all I'm willing to consider.
I couldn't agree more, right? So you've been doing this for 35 years. You've probably seen 3 complete cycles, right? Seller's market through buyer's market and vice versa, or, the return. I've been through 1.5 now, and you're absolutely right. I have made most of my wealth in changing markets. And that's because you're right. Sellers eventually become solution oriented. And, if you're paying attention, you can make a lot of hay. So I strongly recommend people, go to events like this, learn at changing markets, right? If it's a seller's market and you put it on the MLS and you got 30 offers, I mean, sellers are going to take cash. I mean, come on, it's just where we are. But that market's over, right? The winds are changing, as Michael says, and this could take a while, right? Because we'll see where this goes. So. Anything else you want to talk about the event or your past history?
Yeah, a couple other things. We'll touch on how to keep a real estate agent straight and honest. That's a unique thing. We have a very interesting comeback that we'll share during the day on how that's very effective. We'll also talk from a marketing standpoint how to dramatically increase your response rates when you're targeting particular, suspects or prospects out there. We'll also touch on different types of contact relationship management software, what's available out there in the marketplace, which ones might you consider using and why. And also we'll talk about how to write an offer, which is a fundamental issue, but an offer that has a greater likelihood of getting acceptance. There's still an art to that, believe it or not. And again, so many people I think fall amiss, when it comes to that. So there's a lot of ground covered. A lot of it, as I said, is from our experience. And more importantly, the people that come to this class, the networking alone is wonderful too. We get some pretty experienced folks that come, and again, they like to come year after year because they're interacting with other people in attendance, and it's a fun synergistic atmosphere, during the day.
Yeah, no question. I believe networking, one of my challenges for new investors is they take on a personal goal of trying to meet 3 to 5 new people a week in their business, because the more people you know and you spider web your network, deals just come to you, right? They're attracted, right? One of the things why I do this YouTube channel and do interviews like this is because I know, right, you do it enough over time that deals come your way. I've had deals, I've had private lenders come to me, and going to events like this will do the same thing for a new investor. You will be amazed at who you meet, and that you'll be able to add to your network. So great idea.
Absolutely. There's a saying that I believe strongly in that it's while we teach, we learn, and it's very, very true. Just because there's somebody discussing something up in front of the room or teaching a technique or a strategy, it's going to spur thought among a lot of people that are listening, and oftentimes they have some kind of commonality with you. They may have a deal they're working on. They may need a funding partner or a joint venture partner or whatnot. So yeah, absolutely. The networking is very, very invaluable.
Well, I'll give you one more thing. Why I like events like yours is because you've already filtered out and you're basically down to all like-minded individuals, right? Everybody in that room is interested in real estate investing. You don't have the whole, airport problem where you walk around and you just don't know who's who, and you have no, you'd have to have a 10-minute discussion to figure if you even should have a 20-minute discussion. At your events, everybody's interested in real estate investing. So that goes to the side. You can just start talking and figure out where you are in the business. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a highly focused crowd. I agree, and people that are there to learn. But we also, again, not just attract the so-called newbie, but also the seasoned pros. They're trying to sharpen their skill sets. They're trying to maybe get reinforced on something they've learned in the past and with a little twist on it. And we try to, when people come away at the end of the day, we want to encourage them that not to be frightened. Not to be frightened of figuring that they got to keep learning before they can get themselves off of that fence and take action. I don't know anybody that's bought any property without making an offer. And so we stress, as profound as that may sound, it's very true. I mean, we've had people that sometimes they come to these classes, they come, year after year, or, they put these courses on the shelf and don't do anything with them. And when you ask them how many offers they've written, oftentimes it's either none or very few. Well, how do you expect to buy any property if you're not out there and making offers? You've got to use a baseball analogy, you've got to swing the bat to get on base.
Yes.
And there is no walk, I think, in real estate, or intentional walk.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So, to close this kind of introduction to the class, let's, if you will, right, the class is over. You have a student sitting in their car, ready to drive home. What are you hoping they're thinking, as they sort of sit there and contemplate before they start to drive home? What do you hope they're thinking after the event?
Well, I'm hoping that they feel that they've gotten value, of course, out of the event, and I think they will have gotten value, but we want to spur them to take action. We want them to not be scared of taking that next step, of being comfortable on how to write a contract, how to structure perhaps the financing, how to speak to the sellers with some confidence so that the seller that they're dealing with might even be willing to entertain an alternative offer other than just a straightforward cash offer. So that's really the goal, is to be able to let people come out of this and realize that hey, other people that are in attendance are doing this. They've been doing it a while. I can do that. I think I can take that next step, and that would be our main goal.
That's awesome. I think that is a great goal. So as we wrap this up, Michael, I want to turn it over to you so you can leave, all of your actions, hit your website again, the event again, and anything else you think people should know about you or the event. Please go ahead.
Well, again, I would, first of all, if they're not familiar with the Bay Area Wealth Builders Association, get familiar with us. We put on some very, very high quality educational events. They are focused on giving information to both the beginning and seasoned real estate investor. Great networking opportunities, great discussion and education, some really very quality speakers that we bring in from time to time. So get familiar with us, and we'd love to have you come out and visit with us at our monthly monthly events, and of course the workshop, which is coming up. Get registered. It is starting to fill. And again, my opinion, the data discussion alone is probably worth the cost of admission. As in keeping in the spirit of most of our educational programs, it's usually a few $100s to come to these classes, not a lot. But if they want more information, again, they can go to our website, which is www.bawb.info. Again, that's www.bawb.info. Remember, it's a .info, not a .com. And also, if they want information on the workshop on the website, there's a little link on the side that says workshops. They can click on that workshop. And I'll mention one other thing, too, that we have coming up, Michael. We have a class coming up in May. Again, we promote about 4 workshops a year, and this is on using LinkedIn. Which is something that is very much underutilized. It's a very, as you probably well know, and probably a lot of your people listening here know, that it's geared more towards the professional. It's not a social network per se, more like Facebook, but it's much more geared towards, other professionals in the lending industry, in the asset disposition industry, in the legal professions. And it's a great, great underused source of really targeting and building highly targeted lists of people that can probably do business with you and vice versa. And so we're going to be doing that class in May. That's one of the classes we're sponsoring by a LinkedIn expert. And again, we'll have that information on the website. He wrote an interesting book. I'm sure you can appreciate that, being an author yourself. He wrote a book called Disrupting LinkedIn. And it's really, he really has it dialed in as far as using LinkedIn effectively to find buyers, sellers, probate attorneys, fiduciaries, people that, as you know, are good sources of possible business for both you or vice versa, where you can refer them, and building those relationships using LinkedIn very effectively. So that's a hands-on class, interactive. People need to bring their laptops, their iPads, their Surfaces or whatever to that class. It's very interactive, and that's another class that we're sponsoring, and you can find that information on our website as well.
Michael, this has been a lot of fun. Again, I think what you do at Bay Area Wealth Builders the last 19 years is amazing. It was a pleasure to come see the group all those months ago. I had a great time. Your events, Crush It 2019, disrupting LinkedIn are the kind of things that investors need, because again, there's value in data and information, and having LinkedIn versus Facebook is just a different market. It's far more filtered and concentrated. You know what they have as a job and a career, and it's just the right things to do. So I look forward to seeing a lot of people sign up for your event on March 23rd. Did we tell them what time it starts? I think it's, what time?
Yeah, it's an all-day class. So registration will begin at 8 in the morning, and then the class starts promptly at 9, and it will go till 5, and sometimes we stay a little later, but that's the time. It's an all-day event in Corte Madera, and again, it is filling, so we'd love to have people take advantage of it. Very affordable. We're bringing in this year the big data guy, and that is just going to be absolutely tremendous.
Again, Michael, this is great. I love what you do. I want to thank you very much and wish you a great day.